Yeah, hi everybody. It's Tuesday afternoon, the 1st of September, and we're still in Ireland, the most indebted nation in the world. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. I couldn't fit them in the last snip. I thought I'd be able to have enough time, but I didn't have enough time. And this is an article from yesterday's Irish Times, and it concerns McInerney Builders. And they're the biggest property developers in the country of private properties. They don't do commercial properties. They're builders of private houses. And what happened was they devalued the land holdings that they had by 156 million euros yesterday. And they, as a result, their shares came down to 12%. Anyway, that's an irrelevancy to the share price. They did this for purely economic reasons, commercial reasons. They didn't do it for any altruistic reasons. Obviously, they're a private company and they operate in the capitalist system. And it was in their best interest to do this. Just what's of interest from the ordinary person's point of view is the fact is that they've devalued their land. It says the Irish land has been devalued by 52% and the UK land by 47%, which in reality means that they probably devalued it less than it really should be devalued. So it's allowing less squiggle room for the NAMA crowd in terms of how they'll deal with the green sites that they have, the undeveloped land that they have. So we see how they handle that, because if a commercial property company is prepared to write their property portfolio down by 52%, and probably a lot more next year, or certainly some more next year, we see how the NAMA deal with that situation. The next thing I'd like to deal with is an extraordinary article from the Financial Times, yesterday's Financial Times, and this is the Germans. And the Germans are going to raise at the next G20. Of course, nothing will happen, so it doesn't really matter. She's the German Chancellor, and she is going to call on the G20 government heads who meet in Pittsburgh later this month to discuss, and these are her words, what we could do so that we no longer have banks that are in a position to blackmail governments. And one of her colleagues then is writing again, he says, it is proved unavoidably necessary to rescue banks from insolvency if they are large and relevant to the continued functioning of the banking system in order to prevent damage to our country's economies. But this is not an acceptable situation. Well, how about sticking a few of them into the pokey? How about arresting the chairman of the boards and all the board members and a few of the CEOs and sticking them in the pokey for a couple of years? How would that soften their cough? But we all know that's not going to happen, and that's not the way that it works. I think the reason Mrs. Merkel is raising this is because I think she's testing the water, as it were. I think she's got a general election sometime in maybe late September, early October. I think so. I think it's something like that. The final two things, just very, very brief, I'd like to touch on are a letter in regard to NAMA written to the editor of the Irish Times. Lovely article, very succinct, very short, very succinct. Encapsulates everything that I think about it. Gregory Pym writes it from Ardrahan in County Galway. By the way, I don't know Mr. Pym at all, but he's a good writer. He writes well. All members, dear sir, madam, all members of the political parties, their advisors and board members of financial institutions should be made to disclose under oath any loans or interest in companies relating to the property market. This is the only way we as the public can ascertain the true motivation of the proposers and supporters of the NAMA project prior to any debate in the Dáil. You've said it all. Mr. Pym. Because you'll find that 90% of these people who are involved in making this proposition and forwarding the concept of NAMA and been big supporters of it, all have their feet in the bucket, the property bucket. That's the situation. The final thing about NAMA is coming up today. Well, the final thing about this little snip anyway. And it's happening in the High Court. Zoe developments are up yet again in the High Court. And we await to see what the outcome of that will be. It'll be very interesting. Bye.